Number one and foremost for me was, how can I change the world? How can I change the laws? To join one of the most premier civil rights attorneys in Manhattan and work on the Central Park 5 case, it kind of felt full circle. Statutory minimums, what's going to happen, how it's going to affect their family. And it's this dance that's done.
Welcome to Celebrating Justice, presented by the Trial Lawyers Journal and Cloudlex, the next-gen legal cloud platform built exclusively for personal injury law. Get inspired by the nation's top trial lawyers and share in the stories that shape our pursuit of justice. Follow the podcast and join our community at triallawyersjournal.com. Now here's your host, editor of TLJ and VP of Marketing at Cloudlex, Chad Sands.
Welcome back, friends, to Celebrating Justice. In this episode, we hear from trial lawyer Kaitlin Nares. Among many stories, Kaitlin shares her experiences advocating for justice, including securing a $40 million settlement for the wrongfully convicted men of the Central Park 5 and her role in the documentary False Confessions. To learn more about her career and the cases that matter the most, I asked her, why did you want to become a trial lawyer?
So it all starts back, and I have a specific moment, which was when I was in the fourth grade. You had to dress up for what you wanted to be when you grew up. And I put on my older sister's high school graduation gown, and I went in to be Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I gave my whole spiel about her life and how Marty was such a important cornerstone into her life and propping up to be the woman that she was in society in the legal context. And ever since that moment, I just hitched on that I was going to be a lawyer. I was going to be a civil rights attorney. I was going to change the world as Ruth Bader Ginsburg had. And I just had this concept from day one. And what was great about it was I had that concept going into law school where most people are like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I knew from day one I wanted to be a civil rights attorney. And when I got the offer to join one of the most premier civil rights attorneys in Manhattan and work on the Central Park 5 case, it kind of felt full circle. And the first thing I did when I got that offer was tell my mom, and we talked about the fourth grade presentation. So it was really great. I love that that was part of my experience and a story that I could tell, that it came full circle.
Wow. And so right out of the gates, you were working on a pretty high profile case. Can you tell me some stories about that and what it was like, being a fresh attorney?
Absolutely. It was a dream come true to be able to work on this case, because what deserving gentleman to be working for. And so if not a lot of people know about this, the Central Park 5 case was one of the preeminent cases in our, let's say, civil rights history. And I'll go back down in the record books for this. It happened in 1989 in Central Park, where a young woman was very tragically assaulted and raped in Central Park. And the wrong people were arrested, convicted, and spent numerous years, we're talking 13, 14 years, for crimes they didn't commit. Ultimately, they were exonerated, and that's where my story starts. So 1989, when this event happened, I was 1 year old, right? They are exonerated when I'm in high school. And the civil case starts when I am a newbie attorney, and I get the pleasure of working on that case. And it ultimately resolves when I'm a mid-level attorney and really get to be involved in that case, working on that case. It stretched a lifetime. It stretched all the way from me being 1 year old to when I am now pretty much a mid-level attorney at a law firm. And we were able to get a $40 million resolution for those 5 gentlemen. My client specifically, Corey Wise, used his proceeds to start the Innocence Project at the University of Colorado Boulder, hence why I'm in Boulder right now. We followed him here, and what a great opportunity to kind of start and set roots from Manhattan to Colorado. Loved it ever since, and loved being here and working as an attorney here and owning a law firm here.
Wow. And so I did read a little bit about the False Confessions. Tell us a little bit about that documentary and what that process was like for you.
So the documentary False Confessions premiered at a lot of different film festivals, LA, New York, and even in Denver. And it was a great opportunity for family and friends to be able to see it. And what it does is it's a chronology of basically 4 cases and the stories of us working on these 4 cases and the trials and tribulations that our clients went through. So all of them have a common theme of false confessions. I did work as an expert in false confessions when I was in Manhattan, and it's a terrible story of many people being put in a room with law enforcement and using tactics on them to get even the most innocent persons to confess to crimes they didn't commit. And so our clients ranged from children to young adults. It didn't matter who you are, these tactics work, and they have been known to work to make innocent people confess. One of the fun parts of this was that myself and Jane, the lead trial attorney, we actually had these tactics used on us to see who would confess first to certain things. It's very unfortunate. They were very good tactics to get you to question things, to make you feel like it was in your best interest to say that you did things that you weren't supposed to do. And it's been deemed unconstitutional since with the work that we did on these 4 cases. If anybody hasn't seen this documentary, I highly recommend it. It's called False Confessions, and it was produced by a wonderful Danish crew, and it was an excellent 4 years having it filmed.
I'm asking more stories questions. Can you tell me a story about a false confession that you've heard of that is just kind of was like, oh my God, I can't believe this?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the false confessions that was just horrible that happened was it was actually a Denver case, and it happened to a child that was just not even present. It wasn't wrong person, wrong time, not even there. He was brought in on suspicion. Again, this was a minor child, and he was subject to hours and hours and hours of interrogation. They claimed that there was evidence putting him at the scene when there was not, that there was friends of him in a booking room next door that were confessing about him, that they were not there. It was just a really unfortunate story. And guess what? It was completely filmed. Every single bit of that confession and the interrogation process was filmed. It is objectively, when you look at it, as harsh as it can be. Anybody would confess under the circumstances. And this young boy was convicted at trial and spent many years falsely imprisoned. And so that was another case that's featured in the false confession movies that we were able to be a part of. And so the work that we've been doing in making sure that these interrogations of minors are filmed, that is discovery that is produced immediately, and that it can be held up under scrutiny and a potential motion to dismiss is very important. And anything that we can ever do to help that is a big priority.
Did you hire professional interrogators to have them put these tactics on you just to see what the result would be and how it felt? And what are some of the tactics they use?
Yeah, absolutely. And so these tactics are trained across the country, but primarily they were used by the NYPD in New York. And so we got former officers to be able to do it to us. But really what it is it's a grooming technique where you really kind of start the process, making people feel that they're in a safe place, that they didn't mean to do what they did, and that it's okay to talk to the police officers. Then slowly, after that trust is built and that amicability is built, then it starts turning into, we do have evidence placing you there. We have video, we have DNA evidence, we have other people that were there saying you were there in their statements. And then it goes into more aggressive tactics of turning the chairs, facing each other, telling them what will happen if they don't confess, the outcomes, right? Life in prison, statutory minimums, what's going to happen, how it's going to affect their family. And it's this dance that's done. And I can't even tell you how many people have falsely been imprisoned because of this. Obviously, I've worked on many of these cases, which is filmed in that documentary, but it was a very amazing experience to learn about this, to advocate for people, and to try to make change.
Besides starring in an award-winning documentary and, working on a high-profile case like the Central Park Five, what makes you unique as a trial lawyer?
I think it's just that it's this uniqueness that I turned the civil rights experience that I had, and I opened up a personal injury law firm, because what I noticed was the training that I had in the investigative front, really digging deep into evidence. Number one and foremost for me was, how can I change the world? How can I change the laws? Bringing that perspective into a traditional personal injury law firm, I think really has changed the game. And also, I know we've talked about false confessions, but a lot of work I did was police brutality cases. And I gained a an awareness and sophistication to brain injury cases doing that, and I brought it to my law firm. So my law firm specializes in brain injury cases, and what is unique about us is this perspective of investigation, figuring out what happened, holding large companies accountable for putting profit over safety. Sounds pretty familiar. Wasn't I holding NYPD and major government municipalities accountable for their tactics? And so it's bringing the civil rights perspective to traditional personal injury law firm, I think has remarkably changed the game. And it's noticeable in our outcomes, how we're doing cases. And we want to be a change maker. We want to hold large companies accountable for putting profit over safety, resulting in devastating and traumatic brain injuries to our clients that are going to affect the rest of their lives.
Could you share some of those stories about some of the brain injury cases that, or any case that you've had really that had made a big impact on you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of those unique things that's really trying to make us change agents is there is no requirement when you have a nanny or a babysitter come into your house. There is no requirement that your homeowner's insurance cover that. And so we have a devastating case where catastrophic injuries happen to one of my infant child clients caused by a nanny that was in the house. And there's no insurance to be had. And so, one of the change agents that we want to do in this world is we want to require homeowners to cover nannies, to cover babysitters. I mean, talk to any family in the Denver area where we're based. They're using nannies, they're using, in-home au pairs and babysitters, and no one understands that there is zero coverage here if anybody causes catastrophic injuries to their child. So we're trying to use this case to change the laws. Again, advocacy is first and foremost what we're about, and that goes back from the start, right? That goes back from my civil rights days.
Is that specific to Denver then?
Absolutely is not specific to
Oh,
us.
it's not.
And so there's no requirement that homeowners insurance cover these people in the house and any injuries that can be caused by it. I'm talking State Farm, I'm talking Progressive, I'm talking Allstate. I've looked at all of these homeowner policies, and there's either an flat out exclusions saying that we do not cover any injuries caused by any caregiver. And so we want to change the law, and it's going to take a big case to do it. That case is in current litigation. And so this is just one aspect of that we're trying to hold companies accountable. And we do it every day. I have so many stories of how we are holding truck wreck companies accountable for blatant violations of advisory requirements, hiring requirements, training requirements. Again, these are things that they know about this. They're putting profit over safety and causing catastrophic injuries. So, any way that we can change the laws regarding regulations from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Act on large truck wreck companies, we're trying to do that too. Advocacy, first and foremost, is number one for us.
Can you share a story about a truck case that you've had where the negligence or what the company did kind of blew you away?
Absolutely. So there was one case in particular where at the end of the day, let me say, Chad, that these cases are about society as a whole, not so much my clients. And my clients are first and foremost understanding of that and want to change the laws. So let's look at all the things that this company did to affect society as a whole. So first and foremost, they hired a driver that was completely unqualified. He had been fired from a previous job for multiple violations of the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Act and basic regulations of the road. Hitting too many things was apparently what he was doing, whether it be other cars or inanimate objects like poles. They hired this person nonetheless. This person committed additional violations of just basic municipal codes and also the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Act throughout his term. Never reprimanded. In fact, they said, please stop hitting things. Never reprimanded, never did any kind of retraining, ultimately ending in the serious injuries caused to my client. And so it's just a case like that happens all the time. And what we're trying to do is bring case after case, hold company after company accountable to change the laws and make society aware that when someone is driving a commercial vehicle, they are held to a higher standard. And they need to abide by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Act, which the most common driver doesn't know about because they're not held to it. But these drivers are. And so we know that book like the back of our hand, thousands of pages, we got it. And it's important to hold these people accountable.
Yeah, it always disturbs me a little bit when I see the semi trucks that, we're hiring drivers and we'll pay for your training. And I'm like, are you just trained in like 5 days and now you're on the freeway driving a semi at 70 miles an hour?
100%. Seen it many times, or if there's a supervisor, they're probably asleep in the cab, not knowing what's going on. We've had that case multiple times too.
At CloudLex, we understand the challenges personal injury law firms face every day. That's why we've built the Legal Cloud platform to help you stay productive and keep your cases moving forward. CloudLex provides a comprehensive suite of applications and features to support every stage of intake, pre-litigation, trial, and more. From innovative case management to insightful analytics and HIPAA-secure client communication. CloudLex empowers your firm with the technology to thrive. Build your firm of the future and see for yourself at cloudlex.com. Now, here is this episode's closing argument.
I was working with the traditional large law firm, and I had gone on maternity leave. And I can't tell you how many times in maternity leave I was asked how my vacation was going and when I was going to come back. And it got to the point where I simply wasn't able to return back at the same capacity I was. I needed some flexibility. I had a 4-month-old. And I said that there just has to be a better way to run a law firm and give phenomenal service and still be able to have some kind of life-work integration. And so at that point, I knew I needed to start my own law firm. Funny story. I start my law firm and I find out I'm pregnant again. At this point, I know that I'm going to have 2 kids that are 13 months apart. And this is a story that happens to families all over the place. There has to be a law firm that this could be totally fine. And the law firm can run smoothly and clients can get great results and great work being done for them. And so I set out to create the law firm that could exist in this experience. There are 2 things that I know clients want more than anything. They want clarity and they want transparency. And that gives peace of mind. And a lot of our clients happen to be family members where someone is catastrophically injured. And we know first and foremost that if someone is catastrophically injured in the family, the entire family is affected. Understanding that we're dealing with families and creating a law firm that can assist families was the biggest concern for us. And so what we set out to do was create a law firm where families could thrive. We created an atmosphere where we had moms with kids and busy schedules working for us because they ended up being the best multitaskers we've ever seen. They have an idea of what needs to be accomplished. They set the schedule that allows them to accomplish it in a very efficient manner. It creates really high satisfaction scores with regards to work and life balance, happiness, all of those things we're tracking. We want to, at the end of the day, make sure that everyone wants to work here and that they would, in fact, want us to represent their families as well. You can't go wrong.
That was trial lawyer Kaitlin Nares. Thanks for sharing those stories. To learn more about Kaitlin, visit her firm's website, Nares lawgroup.com. All right, I'm Chad Sands. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
You've been listening to Celebrating Justice, presented by CloudLex and the Trial Lawyers Journal. Remember, the stories don't end here. Visit triallawyersjournal.com to become part of our community and keep the conversation going. And for a deeper dive into the tools that empower personal injury law firms, visit cloudlex.com/TLJ to learn more.